Hello, we are back, and I had a question about operators. So I thought I would do a little thing on operators. So we have here just under operators, I'm not going to bother with the vector 2, it's the same thing as the vector 3 more or less. But we have the two operators. And if I go to the ecosystem, there might even be an int operator. I'm not 100% sure about that. When it comes to FSM int operator, yeah, and array operators. So operators are a function inside Unity, and really a float operator isn't a true thing. Like a vector 3 operator is, there's things you can do with a vector 3 operator. In the scripts for what a float operator is, it's actually mainly just doing a lot of the math, which in the code there is a function called math f, and it's similar, same kind of idea as the operator, but it is different. PlayMaker just calls them operators, I think, just for simplicity's sake. So we use operators all the time. Lots of times you guys probably don't even know you're using operators. Like, for example, a vector 3 operator, you would have two vectors, right? And you could do all sorts of different things with this operator. You can add them, and you can do, well, a dot product is kind of a directional thing. If one vector is facing the other vector, you get a float value of -1 if they're facing each other. If they're facing away from each other, you get 1. If they're perpendicular, kind of idea, like an L, then you'll get 0. And that's with the dot product. Cross product, that one's hard to explain. You get kind of this weird side value. Distance is literally just the distance. It's the same thing as get distance. In fact, under the hood of what this one is literally this thing just doing this and storing a float. Same thing. Obviously, PlayMaker has this action just to make it simple for you. You get angles. Projection is also another odd one, hard to explain. Same with reflect. It kind of works like almost the way where if you had a bullet hit something, you want to reflect and get a vector of that. Not quite. There's other steps you would need to do with that one. Then you have your basic add, subtract, multiply, divide, and then the min max. Float ones are the same thing, more or less. Add, subtract, multiply, divide, min max. Modulus is a different thing, and it would be like, I'll show you real quick. If I just hit play on that, if I take this one and ramp them up, okay, well, this will be a lot easier if I do this. Let's take him down to 10, how about? So as you see, like, there's also an action that does this exact same thing, but think of this one as your limit. So it doesn't matter how big this one gets. If you look down here, I mean, it's always going to be within that range, right? 0 to 10, no matter how big this number gets, right? And of course, vice versa. So that's the modulus. Now, when you would need these things, or the vector ones, I think the most common one would probably be the subtract, because this is how you get directions of things. The dot product can be quite useful. Obviously, distances, I guess even angle. Um, the float one, like various things like this. Like you could do a float ad, right? And you think, well, what? Why the hell would I want to do this crazy complex operator compared to a float ad, right? Like if I have some float variable and I want to add 5 to it, why would I use this same thing and add 5 to it? And the main reason for the operator is because you can store it in the way of PlayMaker. You can store this, like I can do this, right? Like if I hit play now, this will be 5, right? And if I turn this one on, now we're going 5, we'll add 5, but I'm going to store it as 5. Oh, of course I had that one on every frame, which was stupid of me. Take that off, right? So it'll be 5, right? Literally the exact same thing as this. I'm taking this float, I'm adding 5, and I'm telling it to use this float again. But you can, on these ones, do something like this, which becomes very, very useful. I mean, if you're going to add something, that's great. This is a nice simple way, but the float operator is this almost becomes this non-destructive way that you're not going to mess around with this first variable, right? Because I can keep adding to that all I want, but I'm only adding 5 to 0. The answer is always going to be 5, right? And if I store it as the same variable, it's going to go up by 5. So you think, okay, well, when would you possibly use something like this? And I think one of the common ones I would use is for, say, reloading guns, right? You would have, let's just get rid of all these. So, I mean, if you had a gun and you could do a max ammo, and say that's 9, and you have your current ammo, and then maybe you have your inventory ammo, right? So maybe your current ammo was 2. So when it comes to float adds or subtracts, how would you possibly want to reload this thing, right? Because you can take your current ammo or your max ammo, and you can subtract your current or something and get a difference, but you're destroying this variable, you're altering it, right? Where I can instead make another variable, and we'll call this required, and do a float operator, right? Because now I can do, okay, well, my max ammo subtract my current ammo, and it gives me a required amount, right? So my max ammo is 9, my current ammo is 2. I need 7. Now I can, okay, well, now I can deal with, does my inventory have 7 ammo? If I do, we need to bring that down by 7 and go up on our current ammo to 7, or up to 9, right? Add 7 to it. But that's kind of like the main thing of these operators. I mean, you do have a couple nice different things here that you can play with compared to just the float ads or stuff like that are just a one style thing. These offer a little more flexibility, but because you're dealing obviously with 2 variables, but you can store that result, we're not destroying other variables, so you can do all kinds of things, right? Like if you want, no, I mean, you could do it with health or coins and all sorts of stuff. Stats is another common one, right? Like you have a base stat, you have your, you're making an RPG or something, and you have a base strength. Then maybe on here you have or a weapon bonus, and we're going to add those, and in the end we're going to have our final strength, right? So I mean, if your base is at 5 and your weapon bonus is at 55, you'll have 60. But now you can change this weapon bonus all you want, right? I can add, I gotta and now I should just put that onto every frame so I can see it better, right? So I can now see, it's going to be a live thing. Like we're not messing up this top one. We're adding this, and for that, I mean, sometimes I've done this as well for RPG style systems, where maybe you have helm bonus, and you have a arms bonus, legs bonus, and maybe a skill bonus. And then you can add another one into this, like let's say there is a current effects, right? So maybe the guy's poisoned or something, and in the end we have total bonuses. And then we can take our base strength and just do total bonuses, and let's do that. And I should probably put those things over here. Current effects, over to that one. Okay, yeah, we don't want that every frame though. I don't know why I do that all the time. Skill bonus, there we go. I don't think we actually used that one. Yeah, okay, whatever. Right, so I mean, you could do this. Now this one you can't do every frame, because it would be these would just keep adding into that, right? So, but I mean, now if I, the helm gave me 12 and the legs gave me 11 and the skill gave me 2, I should refresh that. We get that there, we're adding it here, we end up with this final stats. We're adding all these different things. I remember when I first started, I would have just one number, and then I'd be trying to bring other numbers in and trying to change this number as I'm doing calculations with this number, and everything was just a big cluster. And I found that doing something like this is just so much cleaner, right? It's a very nice, you can just run this system through, right? But that's kind of one of those things. The operator is a great way to not be destructive with a variable if you don't want it to be. With that said, I use it on interpolates, right? Like if I want to go from 0 to 10 over 5 seconds, and we're going to store, we'll use this one, the arm bonus. And then let's go arm bonus, add that. Alright, so now we have, this climbing thing. So Now, like I said, the operator is just a nice way to really, you know, make other variables play nicely together without wrecking a variable. So and the vector 3 one is exactly the same. It's just now you're dealing with vector 3s, right? But it's two different style things, right? Like I said, the subtract, if you take position 1 to position 2 and you subtract them, you get this guy, which ends up being a direction, right? And let's do that, and then let's normalize it. So now we're storing direction, so we normalize direction. And if I made two objects, take him and him, go back into here. So we walk it. Well, we would need to get positions. Obviously, two of those. Every frame, cube 1 and cube 2 every frame. So this is position 1, this is position 2. And then I'm going to take this one and move them up here. Okay, so they're on world space. But now I have a direction, this guy here, which is to the x, right? So this guy here, his z is this way, right? And this guy's obviously the same. So his direction, this is the x, is going this way, directly that way, right? And that's what this direction is telling you. If I lock that, so we can just hold on to that, and I take this cube and I move it around, you can start seeing that direction change, right? I go over here, this is almost 0, and we're now on the z, right? Actually, I think I've got this cube going to this cube, right? So we're on the z, now we're at the negative z, you know. So that's kind of how you do directions anyways with the operator. Also great for, I mean, if you're going to fire rays off, doing ray cast or adding force and stuff like that. It's a beautiful way to do it. Hopefully that answers any questions on when we'd use operators and how we use operators. I will see you guys in the next one.